everyone, my name is Mary Carper and I'm the discussion facilitator for this week. So today we're talking about Webquest and assistive technology. So here's a quick overview of what I'll cover in this video. So first, I'll define Webquest, talk about the 6 steps of creating a Webquest. Then we'll go over an example and talk about how to use it in the classroom. And then next, we'll define assistive technology. I'll give some examples of it, as well as talk about its use in the classroom as well. And then I will show my few questions that I have for the discussion board this week. Here are some objectives of my presentation. So afterwards, you'll be able to apply Webquest to your own discipline and your teaching materials. You'll be able to describe the advantages and uses of Webquest in your classroom. And you'll also be able to provide assistive technology to students to improve their educational experience. Okay, so what is Webquest? This definition comes from 13.org. A Webquest is an inquiry-based activity used for learning. So all the information students explore comes from the internet. This could be, think of it as like a project-based learning activity. Now, this definition does say that all information comes from the internet. However, I did see that Webquest could also include activities like a field trip, or maybe you have like a guest speaker coming in, or there could be a hands-on activity that's not on the internet, but the other activities would be on the internet. So I did explore a couple different definitions of it, but most of the information would come from the internet. Okay, so here are the 6 parts to a Webquest. So first, in the introduction, you grab the student's attention. So for example, maybe this would be one in a science classroom. You could say, pretend you're an astronaut preparing to go to the moon. That would make the students really want to pay attention to what they're about to do. And then also in your introduction, you provide an overview of the goals of the Webquest. All right, so second part is a task. This describes the activity or the mission that students will complete. So again, we use a word like mission. I kind of think of it almost as like a virtual scavenger hunt. Okay, so this makes it fun. It makes it almost, like a little competition that students will do online. And then you'll display an example for the students. That part's really important so the students know, kind of like the criteria, what their grade will be based off of. And this task could be in a few different forms. It could be guiding questions that they answer. It could be like filling out a graphic organizer. It could be making a concept map. So there's a lot here. This could vary in many different ways. The third step is a process. So these are all the steps that you write down for the students. And then all of the sources that the students will use. So again, like it could be videos online, it could be a web document, it could be contact information, like maybe they have to email someone to get some information from them. Again, it could be books. So this is where I saw that it could be it could be an online book, but it could be resources outside of the internet as well, a field trip, etc., or maybe a virtual field trip. And then the fourth step is evaluation. So you'll use a rubric or some other tool to assess student learning. And the conclusion. This allows for the students to reflect, talk about what they've learned, and also talk about how they could extend this activity and take it another step further. And then the teacher's page is optional. That's where you add the directions and the resources in case other teachers want to use your Webquest in their classrooms. So there's a few different ways to use Webquest. This could be like a summative assessment. This could be at the end of a unit where they complete a Webquest showing what they've learned on a topic. Also, students could create their own Webquest, so they could create all the steps. They could find all the sources, right? It'd be like having them teach the topic. So you kind of could flip it and have them do that. And another good kind of reason to use a web quest is that this is how to incorporate reliable sources. So instead of just having students like look at Wikipedia or like Google something, you are giving them the source that they have to use. Um, and I also included this website, teachersfirst.com. This website walks you through all the steps. So in case you're interested in using WebQuest, then that would be a good place to start. Okay, so let's look at an example. And this was on our module as well. Just this disclaimer: the website owners of WebQuest have deactivated the website, so these URLs will not work. But this is kind of the description of the activity. We just can't look at the URL. So this would be this title of a web quest. This is endangered species. I found this on education.com. So topics, this web quest includes topics like endangered species, animals, wildlife species, habitat, and biodiversity. This could be for a few different disciplines like language arts, science, or social studies, or social sciences. And the grades, this is really good about WebQuest too, is that you can really stretch it for many different age groups. So like this one talks about like you could go as low as pre-K all the way as high as like 5th grade. So that's really cool about WebQuest as well. So in this WebQuest, the students work in teams to investigate animals at a risk of becoming extinct. So they act like a zoologist, a world wildlife representative, or a nature author illustrator. Students use information from their research to create a picture book or newspaper for 2nd graders about endangered animals, and then the teams present their projects to another class. And then going on the same example, then members of each team also have to make an activity related to helping endangered animals, that they can do this activity with a class of younger students. So they kind of have to become the teacher and think, what activity could we do for a younger class? And so students review all the ideas that all the groups came up with, and then select one activity that is the best to complete with younger students. And so in this example, here are the sources that students would be using. And this is just a little picture of one that I found. So like they would complete this activity where they make up a story about a make-believe endangered species. So that came from the Legend of the Meeps Island Flying Frog. So when they go to that website, they have to complete this activity on the side. Okay, so here are some reasons about why to use WebQuest. So first, websites or WebQuest can really take your students anywhere. So in the other example, the students were presenting to be a zoologist, right? So that kind of shows you, WebQuest can show them the power of the internet. It's very creative. They can be their own creative researcher rather than just surfing the web. Second reason, completing a web quest is a great opportunity for students to work in groups. So this really promotes collaboration and teamwork. We've discussed before how collaborating in a team is a really real life example of what students have to do when they're older. So that's a really good reason to use this type of activity. And also students can work at their own pace, really if they do it individually or teams. So I'll go on to, this kind of relates to the third reason of web quests are great for classes where you have a lot of different ability level, because students can explore certain areas kind of more in depth, but within that level that you've designated. And it helps students kind of be able to work at their own pace as well. Okay. Excuse me. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold, so I apologize for my voice. Okay. Assistive technology. So this is I'll go on to now my second half of the presentation. So what is assistive technology? These are tools that help you achieve something that you couldn't do otherwise. Ability could be something like speaking, hearing, running, eating, talking, like literally anything you can think of. And really, how does this apply to us? We should be aware of assistive technology so that we can advocate for our students. And also, since we're designing a website, we also should be aware of how to make the website accessible for others. So I wanted to show the difference between assistive technology and adaptive equipment. This comes from the HIE Help Center. So assistive technology is any item, system, product used to improve the functional capabilities of people with disabilities. Assistive technology can be bought off the shelf, modified, or custom made. And then adaptive equipment is a subcategory of assistive technology. And it's something really specifically designed for people with disabilities. Okay, so here's some examples of assistive technology. So this came from the PDF on our module this week. So it broke down examples of assistive technology for each discipline. So I just took a few from all of the examples they had. Of course, there's a lot more. So for reading, so a few examples are enlarged text, text-to-speech software. So that would be where something is read aloud. So if the students need to read something, it's read aloud instead of this would help students who are visually impaired, for example. And then the third example, video magnifier. So again, going back to enlarged text, those would help students with vision impairments. For writing, we have a talking word processor. So that might be if students have trouble typing, writing, they would talk out loud and it would process their words. Adaptive paper, that could be paper that's like has bigger lines or is a different color, something like that. And digital recorders. Recorders help students record class if they need to revisit it later. For math, we have a few here. So geometric manipulatives, these are 3D models, 3D shapes, things like that that you would work with your hands instead of like looking at something. So again, this would help students who are visually impaired. Braille math blocks, and adaptive calculators. Adaptive calculators could be just a calculator that has bigger buttons on it, has Braille on it, just things like that, just to make it more accessible. And then for social studies and science, we have tactile graphics. So could be like a 3D map, models again to make it 3D, to be able to manipulate something, to have something in your hands. And then large print or Braille measuring tools. So to have like in the science classroom, to have Braille on the measuring tools you use in labs, or large print. And then for art, music, or PE, there's a lot here. Again, you could do different textures and materials, especially for art class. You have specialized music software for students who are hearing impaired. And then for PE, you could have like lots of different tools, like in the picture. That's a bicycle for two people, a batting tee instead of like in baseball. You could have, if for students who are visually impaired, you can have acoustic equipment. So like a ball that has like, that makes a sound, or like if you have a team game, like putting a bell on students' jerseys, or a tether for activities that involve running, things like that. So there's a lot there that you can do to include everyone. Okay, so here are the questions that we're going to talk about this week that you guys are going to discuss on the discussion board. So first, related to Webquest, I want to know if you've ever created a Webquest for your students, and if so, what discipline did you use it in, and how did it go? If you've not used a Webquest yet, how could you implement this process in your classroom? So maybe like a specific example, what could you have your students explore? What kind of role would you have your students take on, like a cook, an astronaut, zoologist, etc.? And then 3, what are some benefits of implementing this type of inquiry-based project in your classroom? And then related to assistive technology, so what are some ways you can use assistive technology to personalize your students' learning environment and ensure success for all students? And in case you already have experience with assistive technology, either like that you used some of it as a student yourself, or you provided it for students in the classroom, how are you using it already as a teacher?